when we started with nominations to the massive public voting response. And we then spent 2 weeks of time with the stellar jury to evaluate thousands of nominations that came in for Next Big Creator Awards. And today we are going to celebrate those 30 winners and also discuss and celebrate the ever growing creator economy. A major part of the creator economy are brands and platforms that are trying to bridge the gap between audience, creators, and the whole monetization and revenue streams. And I'm happy to open this summit on a wonderful note by having a fireside chat between Paras Sharma, who's director and head of media partnerships at Facebook India, or how we say now Meta, and Anirudh Singla, who's the co-founder and CEO of Pepper Content. In this conversation, we're going to talk about the growing creator economy and how Meta also is playing a major part into this whole ecosystem. I'm going to hand over the mic now to Anirudh, and everyone in the chat, please feel free to put in your questions. We'll try and make sure if we can squeeze in a little bit more time of Paras and get some questions answered. But over to you, Anirudh.
Awesome. Thanks, Pawan. Thanks for adding in. Thank you so much, Paris, for making out time from your busy schedule. Really appreciate you doing this with us. You know, as they say, that this decade is the decade of creators, and I think platforms like Meta are just changing the ecosystem in how they're thinking about creators. So, a very warm welcome to you.
Thanks,
And
Amit.
yeah, and I'd love to talk to you about how the growing creator economy is just changing the game, and talk a lot about the innovative work that Meta is doing for creators, and get your perspective. So Paras, why don't we start with talking about what you do at Meta, and what segment, how important is the creator economy for Meta in general from the next coming year's mandate?
Got it. Thank you, Anirudh, first of all, and welcome everyone who has joined this session. I can't see you in person, but at some point of time, we'll definitely will. It's great to have this opportunity to discuss some of the things that what we do. So I look after what we call media partnerships at Meta, which includes multiple content verticals such as entertainment, music, news, sports, and what we have scaled, which is looking at both the publishers and the creators, from growing them and then bringing them to the larger tiers, along with content strategy and planning for both Facebook and Instagram, for Meta as a company. And to your question about the about how we're looking at what's our view on creator ecosystem and creator economy, I think it's a massive question, and I can go like on days talking about it, but keeping in mind the time limit that we have, but still wanting to do the full justice to it. Uh, Allow me to look at the few very fundamental blocks of this creator ecosystem and then double click on them, so that we can unpeel this very interesting onion. So I think first of all, to build any healthy ecosystem, we need to look at few things. So, like, are we building for the future, or are we just extracting the value from what's in present? Uh, and for us at Meta, it's a we work towards it. How do we discover aspiring creators? How do we educate them on their startup journey? How we are supporting them with best tools, information? How we are enabling them to unleash their creative expression and educating them on monetization? To me, that building that top of the funnel is what you're building for the future, and towards that aim, we run this, which I would say is arguably the largest creator education program of its kind, born on Instagram. It's a platform where all aspiring creators can register and kickstart their journeys, and with the most comprehensive support that they will need. And we run this program in multiple languages. We initially conceptualized in English, but then we realized that if you're talking in India, then it can't be that. I think currently there are 5 different languages, and it provides access to anyone who's wanting to start their journey in creation, or even for the people who are at different phases of that. To me, that's the first starting point and building block for the creator ecosystem, is that are we building it for future? The second part that we very closely look at it, what I say, is the shape of the creator ecosystem. Is it concentrated at the top? Is it concentrated within big few cities and towns? Is it concentrated only in few languages? And we have been working very intentionally through multiple focus programs to ensure that we provide equitable support to different creator segments. And what I mean over here is that an aspiring creator will need a different kind of a support from an established creator. Likewise, when it comes to geographies, demos, languages. It's super critical that our programs and our outreach reaches out to tier 3, tier 4 towns, to multiple languages, not getting concentrated in one particular area of demographic. And we see that in hundreds of thousands of creators which are coming from these towns across these languages, and they're building a very strong fan franchise. The next element of unpeeling this onion is what I'll call the content mix. Are we ensuring that the ecosystem is rich and diverse? That it's not led by just one or two kinds of content? And how are we also enabling, if I would say, the creative expression across these multiple genres and interest areas? Because we don't want the ecosystem to be just about entertainment,
Yeah.
while it's a massive and biggest category, but across subgenres, whether it's education, DIY, fashion, beauty, fitness, health, auto, and 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 we therefore concentrate and build a program so that we help build as well as promote and support content creation coming from these for different stakeholders, because that's what will increase the value of this entire thing. Otherwise, everything will become commoditized if it's similar. The next element I would say is that the nature of content, or all in our parlance that we call the content format, right? See, any healthy ecosystem to realize the maximum value out of it should be built around uh, uh, leveraging different forms of content or different formats of content, right? We all have seen that how short form video has an explosive growth in last couple of years. And to give everyone a quick look at the numbers, a research that we did with Bain and Company recently told us that in last 2 years, the total time spent on this category has grown by 12 times. The total user base has grown by 3.5 times. And it's not about what has happened. Even if you're looking at the future, in next 3 years, 3 out of every 4 internet users, or 650 million internet users in India, will be consuming short form content. So therefore, when we're looking at this ecosystem and the creator economy, we have to see that, okay, how we are enabling creators leveraging this form of content. And then, as we know, the reels on Instagram has been I think, a rocket engine for this growth. And we have seen, and just to share with you some numbers, and these are from July 2021, there were 6 million reels created on a daily basis in July 21. And you can
Wow.
imagine like how much it has grown, a manifold over there. And we realized that this format is not just a passing fad or trend, it's there to stay. And then we test launched it on Facebook as a platform last year, and now we're expanding it globally and expanding on Facebook in India. Not to me, therefore, it gives far bigger playing area for this format and the creators to leverage this format, and therefore grow the economic impact as we go forward. The other element which now comes the which it talks about the dollars, which is about the monetization. See, it's our aim that how can we help the creator ecosystem realize the economic value of their community and their franchise, right? And it's very critical to say there is one way to say how much dollar can you make, and then the other way to say that, okay, what's the economic value that you can get from your community and franchise? And
Yeah.
towards that, we are driven that, okay, how can we make this both economically sustainable as well as progressive? And sustainable because it shouldn't be and can't be led by just one-off transactions, because if it's led by one-off transactions, then it kind of puts uh, pressure, or it promotes a certain kind of behavior, certain kind of content, certain kind of demographics, which is what I earlier mentioned, that should not be the area. So it should be something which can be sustainable, because that only the ecosystem can grow. And when I talk about progressive, it should be open, and we should be intentional about exploring how the technology is having impact on media and content, how
Hmm.
the resultant effect is coming on the user behavior. Therefore, what are the new ways of monetization which could therefore help build this the entire ecosystem? And towards that, how we are addressing it or looking at it, Anuruddh, is that multiple product business models, multiple products, whether it's the biggest one, advertising supported revenue opportunities, whether it's about direct fan based subscription or payments, whether it's about commerce, whether it's about funding or incentive programs for 0 to 1 motions of a certain creator cohorts. And there are many more which will come. And to give you an idea, in last 1 year, if I'm not wrong, the total revenue monetization from our family of apps has increased by 160% as an outlay for our partners. And we onboarded more than 40% year on year partners, which started getting monetized. And that's therefore is the key thing. because that is how it is then building toward the sustainable thing. The last 2 points,
Makes
Anirudh,
sense.
which I would say is the safety and well-being. If
Hmm.
anything that we are building, or and especially for such a important ecosystem, that how are we intentional and we focusing on the safety and well-being of its key drivers, which in this case creators. And 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 creator well-being is extremely close to our heart, and it's not only in spirit and in terms of peer releases, but actually in terms of the structured program. So whether it be a well-being 101 for the aspiring creators, or it's one-on-one session with the established and superstars, because each one has a different need for well-being and safety and privacy, and that's a super critical part. And finally, there's something which I still remember many years back, that a cod fish lays 1,000 eggs per day, doesn't make any noise, no one eats it. Hen lays one egg every day, makes a lot of noise, everyone eats it. So besides the edible quality of it, it says one thing. So we as an industry, we need to also evangelize and showcase our success, our opportunities, even to the people who are coming in the creator ecosystem, as well as to the people who will be spending money on the brands or agencies. And we
Yeah.
therefore are doing this in a structured program, working with our agencies, with our brand partners, to educate them about the potential that these creators have, to build awareness about what we call the micro influencers, and not limiting their spends or their focus only at the top end, that there's enough to play. And at the same time, also inspiring people who are thinking of it through programs like Creator Day, 25 under 25, and many such things. So I know that it's a fairly long answer to your question. It's almost like
Yeah.
in the world of reels, I've given you a feature film duration answer, but I thought it's super critical that we
Makes sense.
unpeel this onion. Yeah,
Thanks, Paris. I think it's very heartening to see the creator centricity in your thoughts and perspectives. I'm very curious, right? Today, given there's millions of creators out there, and obviously, we've seen a lot of events like you mentioned, the creator day and so on that's come up today. What do you think is the best way a creator on Instagram or on any other platform can know what Facebook's trying to do for them, and be able to say reach out to you guys given scale? Because creator growth happens really fast, right? Today you're at 50,000 followers, tomorrow you're getting to a million, because of reels getting famous and so on. So while the platform supporting the creator through the algorithm, how do they know the platform supporting them through all these other programs that might not be visible at all points to them? So how do you go about thinking around that, and what can creators here at attending this, how can they learn more about these things around incentivization, earnings, and so on? How can they grow with the platform?
yeah. No, it's a great question, and this is one job that we need to continue to do better every time as we go forward. So the best platform I would say, Anirudh, to work towards is the Born on Instagram, which is what we call our central platform. While it says Born on Instagram, and but it's for family of apps, you would know that more or less what's happening, what are the new things which
Hmm.
are coming in. The other key thing is, of course, creators at our various handles where people can reach out. And if they are independent or if they're working with agencies, agencies would know the people at our end. Uh, and when we look at, so let me put it this way, different way of how we manage different kind of creators, and maybe that will answer. Then I'll give you the access points inside. So there are different cohorts. Each cohort, as I mentioned, is whether someone is experimenting, aspiring, or someone is established in superstar, right? Each cohort has a different requirement, and we have created different touch points. So at the base, we have Born on Instagram as the platform where people can come in, and as we move up, people can connect with our teams over here, at Meta, different teams handling Facebook, IG, creators, and then they can become a part of the ecosystem depending on the nature of association that they want to do. Or if they are already part of the agencies, then I'm sure that the agencies are connected with us or can connect with us. But if the community feels that there should be a even better way to have an access to us, then definitely yes. We also have a group of people who we call partner experience managers, who we connect with creators when they have certain queries that our team, because of the number of people, if they can't handle. So there are multiple models that we have built in, but we can always do better, and happy to hear any thoughts and comments that you have from your community, and then we can definitely build in it. Yeah.
No, certainly, Paras. I think with so much fantastic work that you guys are doing, I think it just needs more amplification, and I think I'm sure the platform will definitely drive this through. Paras, I have two more questions. One, there's a lot of this hype around metaverse, Web3 coming into picture, and even Facebook's transition to Meta was a strong signal of the platform's belief in the same. What are your thoughts? How are you thinking about that impacting the creator economy? And what do creators take away from that?
Got it. See, again, it's a massive topic, but I'll try to put it in the time that we have and give as much of clarity. See, we envision metaverse as the next evolution in what we call the social technologies at one end and mobile internet. If you look at last decade, it was about desktop when it came to mobile, and we foresee the next couple of decades would be from the internet, what we call the embodied internet. Very simply put, it's the virtualization of internet. It's almost like letting us feel like we are sharing a space together. Now, that's the broad principle of it. If I were to now look at, in other words, what does that mean from a creator language, it will be at one end about enhancing the reality, and on the other end it's about enabling what we call the fantastical imagination by removing the physical barriers. Now, to actualize this sounds very lofty, and it sounds, but gives you some kind of a vectors. But to actualize this, there are areas where we are deeply invested in. That what are the technologies which will make this come alive, and those are which will basically get you uh, immersive experiences and will also bring that interconnectedness because it's both social and immersive. What we see for creators that the opportunities will be manifold in this world. If you look at from an identity point of view, people would have different identities, sorry, which would therefore manifest them in avatars of different nature and form. We are already seeing that you may have an avatar of yourself in a certain space and experience, and you may have an avatar of a different nature. A individual therefore can extend and stretch their IP across different ways and in different ways and means, in different spaces and also in different ways and means. And that's where the first area which comes in purely in terms of identity. Second, it comes in the area of products. Metaverse would be some call it amalgamation, some call it integration, some call it smooth-led transition of what we call the digital products. Now, again, over here, there's a great opportunity for creators to play in that area of what the digital products come naturally in their space of influence. Whether it's
Hmm.
at one end, if I were to say, it's whether it's Nike taking Artifact as that kind of a digital product, or simply a creator having their own fashion line which they are doing, and therefore there's a digital version of it. So again, there's a massive thing which is on the product side. The third area will be the experiences.
Yeah,
What is the experience that you can build, whether it's an experience in entertainment, fashion, gaming, education, massive space to do. And the fourth area would be social connection, because the social connection will become virtualized, 3D and immersive. How therefore creators can then connect and build that engagement with the fans will be the other area. Each of these they provide both a very big canvas for creativity as well as the resultant outcome from the economic opportunities, because each
makes
of
sense.
them will come with their multiple economic opportunities around it. However, I must say that it's not something which will all fructify in next 6 months, 1 year. It will take time and it will come over a period of time in different phases. But it requires two things. It requires the deep technology at the foundation to make all of this happen, and the collaboration and imagination. And that is the creator part will come in. Technology is what we are building on, collaboration and imagination which the creators will bring in to actually actualize it. And
Makes
towards that, we at our end have committed to spend around 150 million US dollars globally to educate creators and build those skills which could therefore empower the building of the metaverse. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, Paras, that sounds very exciting. I think just one last question, Paras, for our audience and a lot of creators here, which is according to you, what are 2 to 3 things that an aspiring creator should have in mind as they're growing in their journey as a creator in the next coming years? And what do you think Meta as a platform will be enabling for them to drive their growth as well.
Yeah. No, again, I don't want to sound very pedantic. They're very, very talented and group of people who are here. But if I were to look at it, I think the first thing would be you can never learn enough. Continue to invest time in learning and knowing more. Continue to invest time in if you're an aspiring creator. There are different creator education programs. Spend time on it. As I mentioned, we have one of the most comprehensive one on Instagram. Understand the area that you're playing in. The other thing is that, which I believe is at the core, which is core of our mission and our north star of that. Always think of building a community. Communities are robust, far more enduring than an audience. Audience is fleeting. They one-off transaction. Communities are vested with you. Think of that as you start your journey, or even if you are in the middle of your journey, that what community are you building in? The third thing I would say is that, which I talked about earlier, so won't spend much time, is about formats. Short form video as a format we know is the one which is currently, I would say, influencing everybody's imagination and creativity. Get deeper into it. Uh, and the other thing is that build and focus on your individuality. It's easier to get swayed by a certain genre, certain nature of content to become commoditized. When it becomes commoditized, it becomes oversupply, the value drops. Think of it as your individuality. Think of you as a brand. Think of you as an IP. And I think finally it's all about fun. It's collaborate. Everybody's gonna, the future is not gonna be created by one person. Collaborate and create and celebrate. Enjoy this, celebrate the success, which is super critical. And that's one of the areas which I mentioned earlier, that we want to give opportunities for people to celebrate and showcase their success. So yeah, and we are vested, Anirudh, in all of these things. In fact, to share with you, we last year, sometime in November and December, we created a center called Center for Fueling India's New Economy, and we made a commitment to train more than 1 crore small business entrepreneurs and more than 250,000 creators over the next 3 years, and we are vested in it as a company.
Amazing, amazing. I think that's great to know, Paris. Paris, so much to learn from you and so many interesting things that Meta's up to. I think a lot of our creators can get huge inspiration for the amazing programs that your teams have been running. Thank you so much for your time. I think this gives us
Thank
a
you very
great
much.
perspective about how you're enabling creator economy. Folks, highly recommend you check out the creator programs Meta is enabling and reach out to their teams. I think this is the decade of creators, like I mentioned, and there's just so much more to come this year. Thank you. Thanks, guys. This is the end of the session. Thank you so much for taking out the time.